Hi, and here I am to read chapter 21 today of Witch on the Warpath. Don't forget to stay online and listen to the podcast at the end for your chance to win a personalised copy of my novel. Let's have a look and see where we've got to. Last week we left Onk and Hearty outside Ramsgate train station, wondering what to do next. So we're going to see chapter 21, Shine. Shine was collecting drink can ring pulls for her growing collection from a nearby waste paper bin when she saw Onk standing a short way from the station entrance. "That's curious," she exclaimed to no one in particular, though a passing sparrow cocked his head. "A city troll outside of London, and this far south too. Something must be amiss. Though to be fair," she continued after a moment's reflection, "Thanet already has its share of humans masquerading as trolls." Shine felt a significant proportion of the island's inhabitants could pass for trolls, particularly those coming out of public houses late at night. She'd watched them rolling down the roads, yelling and cavorting around the streets. They'd climb lamp-posts for a laugh, or molest a few of the last remaining elfless trees. "What is it about people?" she muttered, losing herself to her thoughts. "They can't leave a lamp-post, tree or road sign alone, nor can their dogs for that matter," she remarked, shuddering with disgust. Shine squinted to examine in greater detail her first real live troll. She'd never seen a bona fide city troll, though she'd heard about them and their eating habits. Not many fairies had seen a troll up close and personal and lived. Yet here was one with a tree elf sitting on its left shoulder, if she wasn't mistaken. That seemed to signify something safe to Shine, so she flew over to see if she could give them a helping hand. They looked so forlorn and abandoned, and besides, the ring pulls were heavy to lug home, and some help was always appreciated. Hearty saw Shine approach across the road. She was a water sprite, judging by her sky-blue hair, with long cloud-like strands trailing down her back. Her body appeared almost translucent, shimmering in the afternoon autumn sunlight. Water sprites unnerved Hearty. For one thing, they were naked. He'd never felt comfortable with someone having no clothes on, talking to him as though they did. Hearty wasn't too keen on water either, despite living for decades beside the Thames. It wasn't as if you could see anything. He knew. He'd tried many times, just out of scientific curiosity, you understand. Somehow the shimmer of inner light, the length of the undulating hair, and the watery ripple that surrounded them seemed to keep their edges of their outline indistinct and blurry. Only the merest suggestion of thigh and breast were apparent. To be frank, it was a bit disappointing to be so close to a naked female and not see anything. "Pretty," said Onk, sighing as he spotted Shine smiling over at them. Shine sailed across the road on a sudden breeze, like a small sailboat adrift on a tarmac sea. Hearty dismounted off Onk's shoulder and fluttered down to stand on the pavement. It was more conducive for introductions. When Shine smiled, everybody and everything around her smiled too. Even the trees couldn't resist. Birds flew down when they saw her, rubbing their feathery shoulders against her head. It made her laugh. Their feathers tickled her ears, and her laughter made the birds purr like kittens, so delighted were they by her presence. Fragile of body, tender of mind, she beckoned all, and all were captured by her heart. Shine shone. 2 sparrows high up on a nearby sycamore tree pined as she passed underneath. "Why can't Shine be a sparrow?" they lamented to each other. 2 cats cried as she floated past and turned her radiant smile towards them. "Why can't Shine be a cat?" they mewed to each other. "Like the full moon, so beautiful and forever out of reach." That was Shine. Shine continued floating across the road, unaware of the heartbroken and lovelorn folk left in her wake. On a deeper subconscious level, she knew better than to acknowledge these infatuations, for that is what they were. Accepting them as real love would be her downfall. Love was Shine's Achilles heel, her strength and her weakness, 2 sides of the same coin. Shine settled a few feet away from the odd couple and smiled at them. Her smile was like a doorway opening to the sun. The hearts of both the tree elf and the troll were captured. They gazed at Shine with rapturous adoration and sighed longingly. Shine knew her effect on males. Sometimes it annoyed her, but this time she giggled, making Onk and Hearty sigh again. Shine was rare for a water sprite, for though she was born in the manner of fairies everywhere, it was suggested it had been an unusual monsoon-like weather the night she'd been created. She was a unique crossbreed between sprite and siren. Alone, each aspect was sufficient to drive males of any species, young or old, wild with passion. The combination together proved to be an even greater lure to magical menfolk, if that was possible. Hence Shine's move to less populated climes where fairy folk, and males in particular, weren't susceptible to her powerful pheromones. Shine thought a troll might be immune to such shenanigans. It seemed she was wrong. "Hello," she said, in a soft, duck-down whisper which made Hearty's ears flutter. "Oh, hi," replied Hearty, seemingly vague and disinterested. In truth, he stood looking down at his shoes, wondering what to do next. It felt as if his brains, his logic and his vocabulary were dripping out of his ears like molten wax. Onk said, "Pretty," for the second time. Shine tried once more. "You look lost. Are you okay?" she asked, concerned for their well-being tinging her tone. Her question promoted a better response. "What? Oh, yeah," mumbled Hearty. He felt as if someone had stuffed a pair of socks in his mouth covered with treacle. Bizarrely, it didn't seem to bother him in the slightest. This time, Shine sighed. It was the old Shine effect getting to them, she realised. They needed help, even if they couldn't ask for it. Taking the initiative, she took Hearty's limp hand and pulled him along behind her. She found Onk followed on behind them, like a large helium balloon, or a very big dog. Perhaps not a dog, she corrected herself, since a troll probably ate those. No, a small hippo seemed to fit the bill. Shine led the pair away from the deserted train station down the road towards a nearby park. The park on Ellington, larger inside than it looked, had seen better days. It was surrounded by a low concrete wall for most of its perimeter. The interior contained an undulating expanse of neat cut green grass, interspersed with formal flower beds and informal play areas. Beyond, a manicured bowling green stared out from behind stern iron railings. It seemed sad. It slumbered, empty of people, as if waiting to be awoken like a fairy princess. The focal point of the park, a vacant bandstand, stood in the park's epicentre. A green hill rose behind it, culminating in a disused model railway track sitting on the brow of the hill. In summers long gone, middle-aged men in dark blue overalls brought their precious scaled-down engines to play in the park on their day off from the nearby bread factory. Men would stand to one side, glowing with pride and satisfaction as their trains tooted round and round the raised track. Boys with shiny eyes, mouths wide agape, hands in pockets, watched in awe as faint puffs of steam lifted like tiny gossamer clouds into the blue unsullied skies. The engines were absent from the model railway track these days. Yet the park still had a role to perform. Hundreds of green parrots infested the place with their noisy squawking and their smelly guano. The parrots didn't appear in great numbers till dusk fell, when other, smaller native birds had gone to roost. In ever-increasing numbers, they glided in from a number of parks and woodlands across the island. Loud in their approach through the sky, they arrived in small groups, the noise deafening in the park by nightfall. Humans hadn't guessed these parrots were outrunners of a huge invasion. It comprised of green parrots in the first wave and grey parakeets in the second. They were waiting in the wings, so to speak, for the global temperature to rise further, predicted by their great swarmy, the green goddess. It was she who, generations of birds ago, told her multitudinous children the story of ice caps melting and seas rising, making their current tropical roosts uninhabitable. Parrots are long-lived, far-thinking creatures, mocking humanity with their parody of humanoid voices in an attempt to hide their secret long-term schemes. Invasion of the less temperate climes began by moving on or killing the local bird population. They were waiting for the signal. Meanwhile, they'd become well liked by the majority of humans, some of whom went into raptures every time "Hello, darling" was uttered, an unexpected bonus. The parrots planned to take over every local roosting site till humans were used to their presence. Their domination would be complete when humans responded with their own parrot-like phrases. "Oh, them! They've always been here. Can't remember a time when they weren't here. Can you, Sid?" answered Sarah to a passer-by as she and Sydney sat on the park bench. Clever birds, parrots. Nowadays in the park, small boys still watched, hands in pockets, while older boys, or should that be young men, played footy, pretending to be Rooney or Beckham. Hearty, Onk and Shine settled down under the shade of an oak tree festooned with parrots. Hearty closed his eyes. He took a deep, cleansing breath and opened them. Looking up into the branches of the large oak tree towering above him, he saw its wide arms spreading out as if to greet him. Its soft welcoming scent wafted down, relaxing his worried mind. It was thrilled to sense him leaning against its bark. Tree elves were rarer than hen's teeth in Thanet. It was why the local trees were suffering. No fairy population in the park to support, feed and nurture them. It had worsened when vandals burnt down Ramsgate Library a few years back. A mass exodus of fairy folk to other areas such as Northdown and Westgate had ensued. The temporary structure provided by the local authority to house the Ramsgate branch in a nearby car park though very close to a good school, did not meet with fairy approval. When the old library reopened, folk began returning, but not in time or in sufficient numbers to help the Ramsgate trees. Once tree elves settled into a new tree home, they were loath to pull up roots and leave. It would take a while before the local trees all had elves in residence again. Hearty smiled up at the oak. Reaching out, he hugged the tree. The oak, symbiotic to Hearty, received his hug with gratitude. Hearty could feel the tree relax, and sap rose like a drinking fountain up inside the gnarled trunk. The oak tree might have looked tired and old on the outside, but Hearty knew appearances can be deceiving. Trees which seem about to wither and die could be rejuvenated by a tree elf's tender ministrations. By morning this tree would look young and feel vibrant again. It would produce new acorns and go on to live another 100 years or more, thanks to Hearty Springfield. And that's where we leave it this week. Don't forget to stay online if you want to hear about the competition. Otherwise, I'll see you next time for Chapter 22, On the Move. Goodbye. Hi, and welcome to competition time. This is the first competition I've held, but hopefully it won't be the last. So please listen carefully for the instructions to enter. In Chapter 20 podcast, I made an error with a word, saying completely the wrong word. For your chance to win a personally signed copy of Witch on the Warpath, you need to find the incorrect word and guess what the real word should be. Once you've done that, send the correct word to my website contact form at carolmsalter.com, all lowercase. The winner will be the first person who have sent the correct word by the closing date on Thursday, the 3rd of September 2020. The winner will be announced out on the podcast at the end of Chapter 23 on Saturday, the 5th of September. Good luck, everybody, and I hope you enjoy it.